Now, to get the summit off the ground, please welcome to our virtual stage our headline partners, Jay Muthu and Dave Hodgson from Virgin Media. Welcome, Jay. Welcome, Dave. How are you guys?
Very good. Meenakshi, can you hear me?
Very well, thank you. And Dave, hello,
Thanks,
good morning.
Meenakshi. Hello, good morning. Yeah, very well, thank you, and hope you are as well.
Very well, thank you. Look, Virgin Media have been accelerating change to create a more gender-balanced workforce and an engaging workforce which represents the diversity of its customers and communities it serves. Virgin Media today will be sharing with us how they are driving gender equality in the world of belonging with their unique approach and their perspective. Jay Muthu is Executive Director, Employee Experience and Digital People Director, and Executive Sponsor for the Gender Network. And Dave Hodgson is Head of Claims and Insurance and Co-Chair of the Gender Network. So, Jay, if I may kind of firstly come to you, firstly, a huge thanks for partnering up with Equality Leaders and the Gender Agenda Summit today and giving us your time to share us some of the best practice you're implementing at Virgin Media.
Awesome. Thank you, Meenakshi, for having Dave and I, and also giving us the opportunity to partner with Equality Leaders on this extremely important topic, isn't it? Belonging and diversity is very important for us at Virgin Media, and to kind of work with organizations like yours who are trying to further this conversation from just words into action, I think is very important, and we are thrilled to be here today.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Jay, and thank you, Dave, for being here today. So, Jay, to kick this summit off the ground, how is Virgin Media driving gender equality in the world of belonging, and how is belonging a key driver to unlocking inclusion?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that question. So, one thing I want to really say at the outset, in the spirit of humility, is that none of us, I'm sure, in this room have really cracked this code, isn't it? Otherwise, these sort of conferences for Women's Day would never be happening, okay? Because we would have solved the problem. The fact that we are here today to learn from each one of you and also kind of share our experiences shows that we are also on a journey, okay? So Virgin Media, over the last few years, has really tried to focus on improving our gender equality in a business which is very difficult to do so, because we are a telecom, media, technology kind of a business, and there are systemic challenges in terms of increasing the female workforce, thanks to the fact that a lot of girls do not go to pursue STEM education in the UK. We are a UK based company, so I'll kind of focus our attention on UK. Okay. So around a few years ago, we made a bold commitment, that by 2022, we will have a gender split of 50-50. It was a phenomenal aspirational goal, which our then CEO kind of set. But as you can imagine, in an industry like ours, to really achieve that becomes a big challenge. And there were a lot of naysayers. And unfortunately, there were not a lot of supporting infrastructure put in place. The recruiting teams went on overdrive and brought in women. But when you bring in women, and you don't have the supporting infrastructure for them to thrive and develop in the organization, we also saw women leaving the organization. They're simple things, isn't it? Take our field technicians, the people who come into your homes to fix broadband, okay? Most of them are men, because it's a sort of a lone wolf kind of a job. You got to drive vans, you have to go to all kinds of places. And the uniforms which we had those days, when we started off this journey, was all tailored to the male physique, okay? And then when we started hiring women in that space, they felt very awkward wearing, oversized uniforms, isn't it? And it took us some time to kind of realize, oh my God, these are small things which really matter. And by then, we had probably disenchanted the talent pool as well. So we did this. But we've had mixed results to it. We've really increased our gender diversity at certain levels in the organization, but there are certain areas in the business where we still have a long way to go. But last year, when I started in the organization, and we have a new CEO and a chief operating officer who's very passionate about inclusion, we started thinking about resetting our diversity and inclusion journey. And we decided that the way to go is go with a strategy where no one is left behind. Okay, we wanted to make sure that every voice is heard as part of this conversation, and it's not just focused on gender or ethnicity or disability or LGBT or age or neurodiversity, but even the the able-bodied, straight, white male needs to be part of this conversation, isn't it? That was our idea around creating a culture of belonging where really no one is left behind. And we believe that the process of really achieving that is more important, because we all know diversity is very easy to achieve. Noah created that when Noah's Ark was created, isn't it? They created diversity by bringing 2 of every kind, and then we know how it all ended. Okay. Inclusion is sometimes easy to achieve. Yeah, I hired a woman, I gave her the same amount of salary as a man, and I gave her the same laptop and phone, so just get on with it. Okay, that's inclusion. Okay, but the key thing here is how do we really make sure that women or anybody who we bring into the organization is able to feel that they can be themselves without any cover. Okay, and that's where we are on this journey today. And what we are trying to do is we've really moved the conversation. I think a powerful tool which we are using is inclusion and diversity is not just a topic about people, but it's also about the business and the process, isn't it? So we've just piloted a program called Equity Sequence. Okay, we are partnering with a Canadian company to launch this. It is basically a series of 5 questions. It's almost like if you go back to the time when Six Sigma and Lean became big things of business process improvement, this is a process improvement technology where you're trying to ask 5 questions to see if every decision you make has equity in it. Okay, and we are hoping through that whole process, what we are able to do is every decision which we make in the company, big or small, over a period of time, will have equity in it, and that will really help further gender equality. I think we've done some great work recently around how do we support parents who are returning back to the workplace using Equity Sequence, and we've seen some very positive results. So our belonging strategy of no one left behind, coupled with Equity Sequence, is something which we're trying to do, which becomes a part of daily doing business rather than something which happens ad hoc in a dark room of a few passionate advocates. That's what we are trying to do.
Fantastic. And Jay, are you able to perhaps share one of the questions from the equity, the 5
sequence? Yeah.
Equity
Unfortunately,
sequence,
no. Unfortunately, no. Those, it's copyrighted by Tidal Equality, and we don't have the authority to share that. But all I can say is those are 5 simple questions. When you just look at it in isolation, you'll say, "What's the fuss all about?" Okay. But then when you really put it in practice, you really see the aha moments which happen.
Okay, wonderful. And look, equity is, equity is so important in our world of belonging. And Dave, kind of coming over to you, Virgin Media is trying to drive gender equity. And what is so unique about your approach? I mean, I know Jay has just spoken about the equity sentence, but can you kind of elaborate in terms of how you're approaching things quite uniquely and differently?
Sure. No, that's fine, and thank you, Meenakshi, for the question. Look, I think as Jay says, Virgin Media, we're very proud of the energy and the passion of our fantastic people, the backbone of our operation, and then of course partnered with our awesome power of our fiber optic network. But actually, as Jay also said, the network accounts for a large part of our workforce. It's about 1/3 of our workforce, and that workforce is only 6% female. Now, as a company, our gender split is 27% female, 73% male. I appreciate that's quite binary. We're working to collect more non-binary data too. But I think we're very committed to changing this story and improving our gender representation at all levels in our company. And I think gender equity is the journey. So it sets out how we get there, with gender equality as the destination, if you like. And I think as we heard from Jay, Virgin Media is educating its people, and we're challenging the way in which we make decisions, and we do that, in part through training and supporting our people and giving them access to resources. But we also do that through having inclusion networks, and this brilliant group of networks, of which gender equality is one, provide a safe space to learn. But they also play, I think, a very important role in helping our company to understand what belonging feels like. And I think that allows us to identify how we can use equity to get there. And I think, the network's involvement in activities from recruitment, removing gender biased language from job adverts, and from the recruitment process, really allows us to make decisions using the widest possible lens. And I think I've really personally been really touched by how the networks and of course their allies as well are able to reverse mentor our leadership teams. So I think to equip them with the right information to set the right culture for change to happen. And I think, look, I think, when we talk about equity, I think equity and education for me go hand in hand, because we need to equip our employee base more generally with the right knowledge to understand why gender equality is a goal that we're still working towards, and why we're not there yet, and why actually treating everybody the same isn't the solution. And I think to complement that, we've developed and launched an inclusion training. I think that's recognizing that when we bring everybody into that gender equality mission, our chances of making real change improve. I've heard from 30% up to as much as 96%, which tells us that it's a conversation that everybody needs to be a part of. And I think recognizing that inclusion is a journey and not a destination. I mean, I'm always reminded of the book by Jennifer Brown, so How to Be an Inclusive Leader, and Brown's 4 stages of awareness. And I think of inclusion training out to our wider employee base as moving people from the stage of unaware, I don't understand why gender equality is still a topic, I don't understand why we're still talking about it, to an aware state, and then taking those people who are already in that aware state and moving them into a more active state. What can I do? How can I step up? How can I be a better ally? And so I think that is helpful. And Jay, of course, mentioned the equity sequencing training, which I'm not going to say any more than Jay's already said. But what I will do is just give you an example, I think, of how we can use equity sequencing to ensure that everybody is included in decisions. And I think that goes some way to explain how equity is working at Virgin Media. I'm going to use the example of some new guidelines that we've published at work for women experiencing menopause. And I think, naturally, when you're pulling together some menopause guidelines, you choose a group of people who've experienced menopause at Virgin Media, bring their real life experiences to the conversation. And also women who are yet to experience menopause, to help set the scene for what information would be beneficial, what support may be available. But I think with equity in mind, we're also thinking about including men in that conversation as well, men as allies, men sometimes as line managers, because I think menopause has been traditionally a taboo topic. And I think, educating people with guidelines as to how to engage conversations, what can I do to help, how can I show up, I think is part of that discussion. And I think, just kind of finishing, if that's okay, on the gender network specifically, and our gender network at Virgin Media represents all genders. And I think so that means it has a wide reach. And I think there's almost this dual allyship equation going on here, where you have, and to take the binary context again, you have men showing up as allies for women, which I think is helpful, but you also have women showing up as allies for men. And if we look at, specific male challenges through their life experience at work, we know that our male colleagues suffer more with mental health and find it more difficult to open up, and that can make identifying mental health challenges hard. So I think this kind of dual allyship just widens our net, and I think we're able to reach more people within the organisation with our messages. And I think it would be remiss of me not to mention data at this point, because I think equity is an investment. Equity is, for me, equity is training. Equity is about how we retain our staff members. Equity is about making the right investments in technology. And so I think equity needs to be treated like any other corporate objective, and that we need to business case. We need to business case some of these solutions. And I think you don't have to look far. And Meenakshi, absolutely preaching to the converted here. I appreciate that, but we've read studies by McKinsey, we've read studies by the American Psychological Association. We know that this the journey towards gender equality is both the right thing to do, but it's also the smart investment for corporates. We've seen studies that have demonstrated that for every 1% increase in gender diversity, there's a 3% increase in sales revenue. That was an American Sociological Association study. So we know this makes financial sense too. And then just to leave you on some very practical thoughts. So how is Virgin Media improving, gender equity, and what are we doing in the equity space? Well, look, we're actively listening to our people. We've turned market research around, and we usually spend time, market researching with product releases, our customer base. But actually, we're using market research teams, discovery, to talk to our people and to ask our people, to ask leavers, to ask current employees at all levels, senior leadership and our ordinary employees, how they feel that gender creates barriers at work. And we're listening to them, and we're being told that inclusive workplaces are going to have a lower employee churn. That's going to drive some savings on recruitment. It's going to reduce training costs. So it's a good thing for us to focus on. Jay spoke about this wash where we have great attraction of female candidates, but then we're over-indexing on female leavers as well. And so that allows us to think about flexibility. It allows us to think about having the right life guidelines in place. We spoke about menopause guidelines. We've also got some similar fertility guidelines as well. But it's also about, we're being told it's also about career opportunities. And so we are in the process of launching our Women in Leadership program to help coach and support the future female leaders. And we're very confident, but also very hopeful that that's going to help reduce our over-indexing of female leavers, and that will help us drive diversity through the company. And so I hope that answers the question.
No, that's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic, Dave. And you've certainly, as an organisation, since you launched your, belonging strategy back in 2015, Virgin Media have come a very long way. And I think you've kind of picked up on some really great points here about menopause in the workplace. And I think it's everyone's business, menopause, not only just women, but men as well. And I think coming back to you, Jay, Virgin Media set a very ambitious target of 50-50 gender balance back in 2015, and it's been an incredible journey for you guys, and it's quite an ambitious target as well. What has been your personal experience to approaching this ambitious target? Because I know you're very passionate about gender equality.
Yeah, I've been here only for a year, but then through my other experiences and also at Virgin Media, one of the things which is very important to understand is because of how the society has evolved, we will never get to a 50-50% target in a large organization like ours. I think that's the first thing to agree, isn't it? We will be able to achieve those 50% parity in certain roles, and where organizations really need to kind of focus on is at the senior levels, because we know whether we like it or not, it's very easy to say that everybody needs to kind of own this. Yes, absolutely, everybody needs to own this. But the leaders have disproportionate influence in making positive change happen or not happen. Okay, so if we are able to really bring in equality and parity, be it from a gender perspective, ethnicity perspective, disability perspective, etc., at senior levels, with decision-making levels in the organization, I would feel that any organization can go about creating parity at where it is really possible. That we need to have long-term 20-25-year-old commitment to increase the pipeline of talent coming into organizations in STEM areas across the world, not just in in the UK, but I'm sure it's the same problem across the world as well. But if you were to see, I was just reading some Catalyst research which said 62% of FTSE 100 companies have female HR directors. So we know that in HR, for example, the number of female leaders are higher. But when you look at finance CFOs, it's around 15 or 16%. So what do we need to do? So the long-term investment to groom talent in specific functional areas needs to happen rather than having a very blanket target. I think that's probably a mistake which we made as well, and which we have kind of learned, and we know now where to dial up and where to dial down. The other thing which we also need to remember is, as the world is kind of moving towards more open conversations around this, I think it's also very important to recognize intersectionality, okay? Because the key thing is, you could be a well-educated, upper middle class, white American or a UK female. the chances of you having success is probably even higher than an able-bodied, black, educated American male. Okay, so the difference between ethnicity and gender and the interplay between those two also needs to be looked at. How many visible senior business leaders have we seen women on a wheelchair or women who are blind, isn't it? Okay, so the intersectionality is another thing which organizations need to start thinking, because the biases just go beyond gender. The biases go into ethnicity, disability, sexual orientation, gender identity. So what are organizations trying to do there? One of the things which we've tried, in addition to all the fabulous work which Dave kind of articulated, the thing which we've also tried to do as part of a belonging strategy is to kind of move away from having siloed networks. Yes, we have networks focusing on specific dimensions of diversity, but we also want them to come together as a collective, because if you're like me, who's been in the de&i space for over 10 years, we know sometimes the diversity networks can be the most exclusive groups, isn't it? Because they all believe that what they do is better than what somebody else does. So we're trying to break that myth and bringing all the networks together in a way to collaborate and make things happen. And we're already seeing some great partnerships and collaborations, which we will hope that we're able to address intersectionality rather than trying to address gender, ethnicity, LGBT. Because the moment you start doing that, you don't know what problem you're solving. The moment you start solving for diversity in all forms and shapes, then you're really solving the real business problems.
I think I absolutely agree with you. I think collaboration is absolutely key. And look, we all know what the issues are and what the problems are, but we've got to get ourselves to a place where we start talking about what those solutions look like. Whether it's for women or whether it's for people who are disabled or whether it's for LGBT people, we've got to move to a place where we all start talking about collaboration. So I absolutely agree with you on that. And I suppose your long-term strategy, Jay. I suppose you've had to kind of tweak that with COVID-19 hitting a year ago. Our world has been turned upside down. Has there been an impact in any kind of way in terms of how you're going to reach that 50-50 target?
Yes, we are now saying that our focus is not the 50-50. The focus is to, like Dave was saying, continuously improve gender representation. So we've already made that reset, which is very, very important for us, because when you have this big 50-50 target hanging over your head, what happens is you're just focused on that and not really solving the problem. So we've now said that the idea is to kind of really improve representation in specific areas of our business. So that's one thing which we've done. The second thing we've done, which I'm sure lots of organizations are also thinking about, is we know COVID has had a disproportionate impact on women. In your opening, Meenakshi, you kind of spoke about some dire statistics around that, isn't it? Because whether we like it or not, in most cultures, women seem to take the role of the primary caregiver, be it children or vulnerable, etc. So through this process, obviously our women employees have kind of struggled a bit more than probably our male colleagues might have. I'm sure male colleagues have also struggled. So we are focusing on creating a future world of work framework, where we say, as we slowly start getting into hopefully a normalized world, in a new normal world, what does it mean to work for Virgin Media? So we are trying to say there is flexibility, there is autonomy for each individual to choose when they do me work, when they have to kind of sit down and do work, and they can do that anywhere. And when we do we work, when we all come together to solve problems and collaborate, so we are kind of looking at that. We are also looking at some progressive policies around menopause, around fertility. We have changed the way we welcome people back from long-term leave, mostly maternity leave or parental leave, because especially for people who probably went into maternity before pandemic, and suddenly where they're coming back, it's into a completely new world of working, isn't it? And it's been extremely challenging for them. And with the pace of transformation businesses are going, so we are trying everything to kind of support those women who return back from maternity to make it as smooth as possible. And we also know women are going into maternity during this pandemic and remote working period. And when they come back, we don't know how the world will be. Hopefully it will be a hybrid working world, which means they will need more skills, to kind of operate in a hybrid fashion while trying to juggle with a, growing newborn. Same with parental leave, the paternity folks as well. So we are kind of trying to address this in multiple angles. So the gender network is playing a very active role in terms of advising and advocating. I think that's what the role of networks is, and that's how we've kind of set up our networks to become a conduit for engagement, but also advocacy.
And Jay, look, I think we will all agree that the future of work is going to change forever. However, I think none of us knows what that is going to look like. And I love the bit that you spoke about, the we work and the me work, And look, Dave, just coming over to you, you're an organization where, perhaps you've got a percentage of the workforce that works from the office, and then you have a percentage that are engineers, out on the field. How do you create a sense of belonging for your female engineers in a world where, you've got people working in different places?
Yeah, no, of course. And I think, as Jay said at the introduction, we don't have all of the answers yet. So I think it's something that we're still working on. I think what we do know is that creating a culture where everybody feels that they belong, is different for different roles. And I think, if you play a role where you are one of our support workers working from an office, for example, I think it's easier to set a culture that everybody in the office can experience. And I think to some extent that culture can then work for everybody. But I think you're right, when you're looking at field-based operatives, that becomes more difficult, because there is a little bit more lone working. There is a little bit more of a structure to the day, and certainly some of the feedback that we've received in the past is that more flexibility in this space would be helpful. But I think we approach it in the same way that we've approached equity from the answer I gave you previously, which is we need to talk to our people, and we've spent a lot of time speaking with our field-based operatives. We've talked to them, to the leadership team, about what's expected from the role. We've talked about the culture that we're able to engender when an employee, male or female, starts work. Setting the right cultural expectations, I think, is fundamental to ensuring that people feel like they can be themselves and that they can show up without a cover. So I think that's important. And I think the example that Jay gave about the uniforms, I think it extends to PPE as well. I don't think it's just uniforms; it's personal protective equipment as well. But actually, I think there's a real USP here, if I'm honest. We know that the customers that we serve represent society, and society is more gender diverse than our engineers are today. And so, I think there is, I think we need to look at the advantages of being able to, create a space where customers can be given the option of a female technician visit. And I think that creates, it looks at gender diversity in a slightly different way. It becomes less about creating a culture where a female employee feels like they can belong in an industry which has traditionally been dominated by males. And I think it becomes, we've opened up a new opportunity here as an organization where female employees, can thrive in their own way. And so I think it's that. I think to really specifically answer your question, Meenakshi, I think it's we don't have all the answers yet. We are communicating with our people. We are learning from our people. I think there are some obvious things that we can do in respect of making sure that there is the right environment in order that people feel included and that they can show up without a cover. And I think that's fundamentally important, and there's no reason why that can't happen immediately. But then I also think this kind of longer term is, how do we really, how do we as an organization and how do our people capitalize on the fact that we have female employees who are working in a traditionally male environment, and how do we use that as a USP to really drive growth in that area?
Thank you. Thank you for that, Dave.
Can I just add one line to what Dave said? In addition to that, what we're also trying to do is to break stereotypes, and a good way to break stereotype in a consumer business is through our advertising, isn't it? If you've seen the new Virgin Media advertising, we've really started breaking those stereotypes. We had, love can feel anything, so love can be man, woman, woman kind of thing. We've just launched a new ad which kind of focuses on, a boy on a wheelchair and a girl falling in love, multi-ethnicity kind of girl falling in love. So we are trying to attack this from multiple angles, not just from an internal perspective, but also kind of creating belonging from our advertisement and commercial go-to-market strategy as well.
And actually, if any of our delegates haven't seen the commercial advert Jay has just spoken about, we're going to be playing that at the expo during the course of the day. So please do visit the expo during the course of the day. I'm just conscious of time. I've got 2 quick questions. Dave, one for you off our virtual floor. I'm going to read this out very quickly. Bear with me 1 second if I can just go into this question here. Dave, obviously Virgin Media set large targets on gender equality in 2015. I'm assuming this meant evaluating your supply chain to ensure they understand your journey and offer collaboration. How important is it that your supply chain supports gender equality?
Yeah, look, it's a really good question, and certainly a question that we've been speaking about internally as well, because we're very mindful that one, if you like, shortcut to gender parity in Virgin Media is to increase the work that we pass out to field-based operatives, contract partners, and the like. And so it is fundamentally important that our partners come on the journey with us. And I think at Virgin Media, and Jay, you'll have an opinion here, no doubt. I think at Virgin Media, we really strive to ensure that our partners share the same values as our company, and we work very closely, in exactly as we say, in partnership. So there's definitely an aspiration and a hope that will.
Fantastic, that's fantastic. And Jay, one last question. We've literally got a minute to go. What's next for Virgin Media? This is the decade that we can really make an impact.
Yeah. I think what's next for Virgin Media is both a hope and an action. The hope is we get more bold and courageous, and we kind of take some decisions which really further gender equality in the organization. That's the hope. And the action which we all kind of committed to take as a senior leadership team and the gender network is to really look at those hot spots where we can try and dial up our gender equality. But more importantly, how can we create a psychological safe space for people to believe who they are? And that's what we are trying to achieve, to create a space to improve the diversity of our employees, but also to create psychologically safe places. And the way we want to measure that, which is also important, how do you measure something like psychological safety, isn't it? Is today in our HR systems, when you ask people about their ethnicity data, obviously gender comes through recruitment, but any other ethnicity data, it's only around 55% of people have declared it. But when we do that as part of our employee engagement survey anonymously, we get around 90% response rates. So our goal in the next 3 years is for 90% of our employees to declare their diversity data on our HR systems. And if we are able to do that, I think we would have created psychologically safe spaces. And then all the talent we would have hired are probably staying with us. Otherwise, we would have missed a trick.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Jay. And thank you so much for that, Dave. We've absolutely loved having you at the summit today. And I'd love to talk to you a bit longer. And I suppose you've got everybody Googling now what equity sentence means.
So some free publicity for them, isn't it?
Look, we will catch up separately. Thank you so much. And
thank you.
I will see you soon.
See you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.